Hello and welcome. You're stuck with us again. It is another episode of the Triple B podcast. Welcome, welcome. We are thankful you're here. With me today, I've got celiac underscore Matt. I've got Scott Stevens or SM Stevens streams for whenever. Well, we know he won't be streaming, but we know, possibly when he'll be playing something very soon here. We are T
Which will
minus
be
of the recording of this. We are T minus 2 days away.
I'm going to go and get it out of the way. Worst experience of my life. Yes, I haven't technically done it yet, but I think it's safe to say at this point. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Listen, you're gonna love playing Fortnite. You're gonna have a blast with us in a couple of days. Friday, 10 p.m., June the 9th, your birthday, which is by the time people see this in the past, you're gonna have a great time.
I like how you did the very official plug for something that they will be tuning in weekly to take part of. But good job.
That
sounds good.
Always be plugging. Always be plugging.
So anyway, if you didn't catch it, you should go catch it. There should be a VOD by the time you watch this or listen to it. And you can catch Matt at celiac underscore Matt on Twitch. You can catch me at Bowertendo, and you can catch Scott SM Steven streams. So that being said, guys, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking. You ready for this? Hang on.
Oh.
There you go. A Liquid Death, the best sparkling water in the biz.
I mean, the bar is pretty low, but, you know.
The best sparkling water in the biz. No further context needed. Thank you very much. Severed lime flavor, and I love it.
I am drinking kombucha, as always. Gotta stay regular. I am drinking Whale Bird. I don't even remember what this flavor is called. Peach Paradise. So, look at I don't know why, but it has a bunch of peach-like colored butts on the can. I still haven't figured it out yet. What's up with that? But anyhow.
You mean peaches?
No, they're peach-colored butts.
They're peaches. Those are what peaches look like.
I mean, aren't butts just peaches and peaches aren't butts?
Do you know that's why people use like the peach emoji in their phones to represent, booties? That is an actual peach.
Aren't those booties?
Do you not know what peaches? Have you ever seen a physical peach?
Yeah, it's in a jar. It's really wet and slimy, and
a physical peach, not a canned peach.
That's physical. What? Would that? I can't hold that in my hands. It doesn't. It's no. I mean, you're just talking nonsense.
Boppers and fake peaches. Scott, you just never disappoint.
I'll yield the floor. I'll yield it. I give up. That's fine. We'll move on. Hey, Mike, what are you drinking?
I am drinking sparkling waters. Well, it's seltzer. Whatever. It's sparkling water. Polar black cherry. It's pretty tasty.
Black cherry, you can't go wrong.
This might be my favorite of these. I've tried a whole bunch of them. They're really good. These are very, really good. This one's like, like the others are like here. This one's kind of like. So I think I have my favorite. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking, guys. Yeah. What are you playing?
Ooh, I want to hear Scott because I want to know if there's anything not Zelda that he's playing.
I am actually, so I'm very torn right now. I've been playing lots of Diablo 4. Technically, I've probably been playing more Zelda. But yeah, like this past weekend, it was supposed to be the Diablo 4 weekend, and I think technically I ended up playing more Zelda than Diablo 4. Really liking Diablo 4, though. So it's going to actually tie into our topic for this episode, so I'm going to save my criticisms for a little bit. So for now, I'm just going to talk about the good. It's back to basics with Diablo. There isn't as much shit going on the screen. You can actually follow what's going on and not just like, I'm going to keep mashing buttons and hope I get out of this encounter alive. One of my gripes is enemies are kind of damage sinks. It's not really fun having to go swat at an enemy for 5 minutes to kill them. Yes, there's been some pretty brutal boss fights, but overall, I'm really enjoying it. Like, am I enjoying Zelda more? Yes. Is Zelda a better game? Yes, but I am pleasantly surprised with Diablo 4, and I am excited for the future of it, all things considered. There is definitely some gripes I have, but that'll be for later on.
That's great. I'm not playing Diablo. Diablo 4 and Street Fighter 6 are on my to-get list eventually when I'm done paying for how expensive existence is. I've been playing my regular cycle of games. There's Overwatch, Zelda, of course, but the one I really want to talk about, a brand new game that I started last Thursday. which was a game that was gifted to me specifically for streaming because it's a great Twitch integrated game. It is called King of the Castle. The premise of this game is the streamer, the one that's hosting basically, is a monarch or a king, queen, whatever. And everyone in your chat can join. They don't need a phone app. They don't need anything fancy. They can join this game in your Twitch chat. And they get sorted into different houses or countries or states, whatever it is. And each state has like their own goal to overthrow the kingdom. You know what the goal is. And during voting and decision making that both the chat and you as the monarch make, and you get little special abilities and stuff, you kind of have this fun little narrative where you as a king are trying to like achieve certain goals while stopping them from achieving certain goals. And eventually whoever achieves the goal first, technically wins. And from my understanding is the king loses most of the time. But the stories that are created are just so hilarious. Like I had one guy, because you can die. Like the nobles are the Twitch viewers. You can die. So like there is someone in my chat, his name's Shulk Gaming. And there was a storyline where he or someone else stole a religious bear. Like this bear was like a religious entity for a group of people. And I, as the king, had to intervene to help figure out what to do. And then the people voted. And then eventually that bear that Shulk got just ate him. It just ate him. And then he said, Shulk died. Here's Shulk the second. So his heir continues. And then a friend of the stream for Mike and I, Pat, apparently turns into a werewolf just randomly. And Pat's like, cool. And he just starts eating people. So there's all these fun little storylines going in. And it's one of the most fun streams I've ever had because of how integrated it was with Twitch. The game itself was only $5, but it's an absolute blast. It was so freaking fun. And I'll be streaming it on a future Thursday as well. So King of the Castle, so fun. Great streaming game. Had a blast with it.
Nice. I'm just more Zelda. I'm now, but I have shifted. I'm like, okay, I have other games I want to play. It's not that I don't want to stop playing Zelda, and in fact, I probably will just continue to play Zelda throughout the year. But now I've shifted into cool. Now I'm going towards endgame, right? I've got most of the stuff done. I've gotten Master Sword without going spoilery that way. I've gotten a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, okay, end game. But I did start a game on stream that, look, I am really excited about. I love it. It's campy horror B movie, B horror movie stuff, and it's called The Quarry. It was included with my PS Plus subscription that I have, and I thought, I'm paying for this thing, I might as well try it. I can download it for free, so I don't have to pay for it. It's from the group that did Until Dawn. I also think they did those, like, the shorter ones, the Dark Pictures series or whatever. There's a whole bunch of them. And I do want to try those. Those are on there too. But I was like, The Quarry, and it's got David Arquette in it. And I'm like, I gotta play this. And I gotta say, man, it is awful in all the right ways so far. So, I mean, it's like a bunch of like wannabe adults trying to be wannabe teenagers, trying to act like teenagers, which is already just hilarious. And they all hate each other for some reason. I don't care. I'm already picking like, okay, I'm gonna let you die. I'm gonna let you die. I'm gonna make you die. Like if I get the choice to like trip, I'm gonna let you trip. I have and it has what's his name? The guy from Detective Pikachu, the kid. But you know who I'm talking. Like he's
Justice Smith.
Yeah, I think that. I think him.
They licensed or brought in a lot of actually pretty big name actors because this is essentially a sort of choose your own adventure. You kind of guide the story with decisions and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I know about it. Graphically, it's very beautiful, but it kind of has to be because it's like this. I think it's motion capture, or it's just very meticulously designed after like actors. They're not playing themselves, of course, but just David Arquette.
It's definitely
David, which is great. Did they voice it as well?
Oh, absolutely. He's Mr. H.
So it's not a game for me, but I respect and appreciate what they've done with it. So folks like Mike are probably going to have a great time with it.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. It's dumb so far, and it made me jump at least once. So I was like, hey, you've succeeded where others have failed. So I love me a good stupid horror movie. So this is a good stupid horror game, but I get to choose who lives and dies. So. All right. So those are the games, those are the drinks. So speaking of games, this is a gaming podcast where we talk about gaming things. Now, we've kept it pretty, I would say like 90% positive with our stuff. It's just stuff that we like that we're sharing with people, right? And then every now and then we get we didn't, like the Zelda, the flaw, like what we like, what we don't like, the bad villains that were just awful, awful bad villains. Um, this one, and well, the next one kind of, but this episode is going to be just all the negatives because like I know I've been thinking about this, and I know these two we've briefly talked about it before, but I swear that there's going to be a game industry implosion here sometime in the near future. 5 years, less, I don't know. Something's going to change because I'm seeing all these other things happen too, like E3 just disappearing, all of these other things. It's moving, it's shifting. Digital versus physical media, the prices of base games. There's a whole bunch to talk about here. But I really feel like there's going to be a game industry implosion. And what I mean by that is like it's just going to collapse on itself, like the big names, or something's got to change. And before we get into these points, so I mean, I guess to start us off, the big thing that everybody looks at and goes, yes, whether you are like, I get it, or you're like, this is awful, they don't need to be charging this. Prices have gone up. Like $70 is going to be the baseline moving forward. Whether we like it or not, this is what they're doing. They're forcing it down people's throats. I get it. Inflation is a thing, especially now with Uber inflation. I'm sure 10, 15, 20 years from now, there's going to be more Uber inflation. It happens. What are your guys' thoughts on these prices going up? Let's stick to, for right now, the AAA games, because I think this is something we'll talk about. There's different well, there should be different ranges, but let's talk about the AAA games because they cost the most.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pull a nice classic triple B moment here and say one, an honorable mention of something that's going on very recent,
Thank you.
and just to kind of recap the point of this conversation, we're talking about basically some problems that we kind of see in the gaming world and where it might go. And then the next podcast, stay tuned. We're going to talk about some fixes, what can make it better, because we're geniuses and we know what the answer to everything. Quick thing Mike and I in particular want to talk about is Twitch recently released some changes and then pulled back the changes. The changes, very succinctly, were just crapping all over streamers and their sponsored content or sponsored content during their stream. Twitch more or less said, you know what? You can still have sponsored content, but it has to follow these super strict guidelines and how most of you are making money right now. You can't do it. Peace. And there was outrage, backlash, people that don't even know anything about Twitch are just getting angry. Like it was bad. It was a very, very bad policy. And then Twitch had to say, like, you know what, guys, we're sorry. We're going to make another comment tomorrow. And that was today, June, what is today, the 7th. And they basically said, listen, as of now, we're getting rid of that. That's not who we are, basically. They more or less said that's not who we are. And they just completely pulled it back. So here's my theory as to what happened. Either there's someone at Twitch whose goal is to just make them a crap ton of money, or because they're owned by Amazon and investors in this capitalistic world, control the world, told them you need to make more money. You're making money now, hand over fist, don't care. You have to make me more money. And they're like, all right, well, how do we make more money? Well, let's screw over what our product is. People making content for us on our platform. So someone somewhere said, go make more money. They said, fine. They probably went to the development team of Twitch and said, this is what we're doing. And I guarantee you there were people at Twitch that said, this is a bad idea. We're going to get a lot of backlash. And Mr. Moneybag said, do it anyways. So they did it. And I guarantee you there was someone that as soon as that message went out, there's someone at Twitch sitting there right now with their arms closed going like, okay, time for the heat. And the heat did come. And now Twitch has backed it out. This is just annoying. I don't have a fix for it other than Twitch just needs to take care of their product, which is other people doing things. That's it. It's stupid.
It's really funny you saying that. Like, I'm not really into streaming yet, so I can't really speak on the specifics of this, but based off what you said, That's very similar to how it went down with D&D. I'm not sure if you heard about a couple months ago, D&D had like a huge like thing going on. Like they still haven't fully recovered. A lot of people went like D&D. I can't even get you into the specifics of what they did, but they did something that really alienated their fan base to the point where a lot of them saying like, "Oh, we're quitting D&D. We're going to be playing some other tabletops from other companies." And it was very quickly that D&D, the parent company Wizard of the Coast, backed down and said like, okay, we're not doing this after all. We're taking it back. And then I don't know if it was the person in charge of the D&D division or what, but he basically said like, yeah, when this decision was made, there wasn't enough D&D people as part on at the table coming up with this decision. It was other people, with other concerns other than, what's right for the player, the fan base who made these calls. And as soon as this backlash happened, we got immediately invited to the table and we kind of told them like, this was a bad idea, and we told you it was a bad idea, and we're glad that we're now part of the discussion. But yeah, the damage has already been done, and first thing they told them to do is like go back on doing this. So like very similar to what Matt just said, and to be honest, I would not be at all surprised if that's really how it went down. It's just like listen to the right people, right? Invite the right people to the table.
I vaguely remember seeing about that. I didn't know any of the details, but yes. And what bothers me the most about this is that already you're essentially you're getting free labor from these people doing, stream. The partnered streamers, they stream 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Like this is their job. And look, we're not going to have the discussion of it's not a real job. Just sit down and be quiet. We're not going to have that discussion in this podcast. Maybe another day. But what really bothered me was that not only are they screwing over their content creators, which if you don't, so if you're listening, you're watching, you don't really understand what we're talking about, think of this. It's a little bit easier to grasp on YouTube because YouTube, like that's, any YouTuber is like, hey, look at my Satisfied game Switch grip. Look at my G Fuel energy drink. Look at they do sponsors and that's how they get their bag. Okay. Yes, they make some money from YouTube. Yes, they make some, but they have to go do stuff. It's very much like the music industry where they're like, look, man, CDs do sell, but you got to go do shows. You got to go do this stuff. You got to have multiple streams of income to actually make it. And Twitch effectively just went, yeah, that way of income that you're doing, you can't do this on our platform anymore unless you want to give some to us, essentially. They were basically forcing people to go through Twitch because, like Matt said, and then credit where credit is due. This is from a YouTuber called James Stephanie Sterling. They don't want some of the money. They don't want most of the money. They want all of the money every time. So and then they pawn it off as, sorry, that's not us. That was not what we were trying to say. We misphrased it. I'm like, no. Everybody was like, you knew what you said. Just say sorry. We screwed up. Fix it. Don't do it again. That's how you fix it. So,
yeah. So there you go. Fun Twitch stuff. My cat is here as well to agree with our outrage over Twitch. But hopefully, cat rage. Hopefully, the people that actually know what Twitch culture is and why people are there and why people create content, I think they're getting it. I hope they're getting it. So it is a good segue because money makes the world go round. That's just how it is. Even those that are abhorrent to our current state, like we often joke, like, oh, there's capitalism going to capitalism. Let's be frank, there are definitely some merits to it. No system is perfect. All right, there you go. That has been said. But money still drives the world, like it or not. So going to game prices being so high, we talked about this in one of our earlier podcasts, in particular about Tears of the Kingdom. And one of the points I know Mike brought up that I really enjoyed, and this was one of the points that you're probably going to dive into later, is some games are just at such a high level. And you mentioned AAA, $70. That's the new minimum. That's the new standard. So AAA games, get that. Tears of the Kingdom, get that. You know what? Fine. At this point, I accept it. Inflation exists. We're all poor now. Whatever. But then they have games like, I don't know, Gollum that just came out. I don't know if you know anything about the debacle that is the game Gollum.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it looks so awful. That game is $70. And it's one of, I think, the most recent most worst AAA games. And that is a game that also, hey, get this, remove content to include it as DLC. So they have DLC for a game like that. The point I'm trying to make is AAA titles, I think it's fine to charge $70, but your game better be worth it. I hate it. I hate it. Like $70 for Tears of the Kingdom was like, that's too much for me. Thankfully, someone from my Twitch channel gifted it to me because they're awesome and Twitch is great. So that didn't really bother me. But I want to get Diablo 4 and Street Fighter 6. I'm not spending $150, $60 after tax right now. Unacceptable. I can't do it. No matter how much time I put in that game, I can't do it. And I don't think a lot of gamers can really do it in this day and age. But that's what they're going to do. So it makes me cranky, but the weird answer is basically like, is the game worth it? I think $70 is a fine minimum or a fine maximum for a game if it's worthy. I get it. But Mike, you're going to talk about at some point, like maybe games just shouldn't come out at $70. And I'll leave that to Mike to address.
And I actually do have another point as to the tiers.
Mhm.
The tiers
So-
of that, but I'm going to let Scott go first on his thoughts.
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting is I know we mentioned before, and then I think it was Matt or Mike even mentioned it a little earlier, is like, we get it, things are more expensive, inflation. The thing that's really funny though is inflation's been crazy. I think we can all agree on that. And you know what the crazy rate of inflation is? It's 10%. You know what 60 to 70 is? That's almost 15%. So like, oh yeah, inflation exists. So why aren't AAA games costing $65 then? Like $70 at 15%. Like there's a little bit more in there. It's like, all right, that's 10%. Where's that other 5% going to? You know, straight to the shareholder, straight to the CEO, president's pockets. That's where it's going. So I'll save my next bit for later too. But yeah, definitely the price, $70. As much as I praise Tears of the Kingdom and I love it, I'm still salty at $70. Do I think I'm getting $70 worth of value? Yeah. I mean, it's a difference though if like you go to your favorite fast food restaurant, you eat your favorite hamburger, it costs $5. It's like, this is delicious. And then the next week you come in there and it's $10. And it's like, well, you know what? It's still delicious and I'll still pay $10 for it because I feel like, you know, it's at a tasty level of still being worth it at $10, but still doesn't change the fact that driving it up 100% is a dick move. And I think I still feel that way about Nintendo of Tears of the Kingdom. Like, is Tears of the Kingdom, is this like, yummy, $70 game? Definitely. Hell, I could probably pay $100. And it's like, all right, yeah, I really am never going to be happy about paying $100, but this is definitely a $100 value game. Does it make it right? In my opinion, I still don't think it makes it right, especially the way Nintendo did it. But at least one thing they did that was very nice is, and it kind of screwed me over a little bit, I bought $30 in Nintendo DLC account, whatever, credit, because I thought they were going to announce DLC with Tears of the Kingdom like they did with Breath of the Wild. And they never did. So at least good on them for not doing that. It kind of screwed me over because now I have $30 laying around for Nintendo, you know, shop credit. But at least they didn't do that. Opposed to Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, which was, yes, $60, but was it $20 for the DLC?
Yeah, and they had like different waves too. Like they added different things.
And I would argue that even with the DLC, Breath of the Wild at $80 is probably less content than Tears of the Kingdom is at $70. So I guess that's one way to view it as well.
1 billion percent correct on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just like that Scott said, yummy, $70 game.
Mm-hmm. Yummy.
I just thought that was a delightful phrase.
Oh man, that might be the name of this episode. Yummy.
Yummy, $70 game. Tasty.
So, you know, and I come from the camp that I do believe that Tears of the Kingdom is worth that 70. I get it. They spent the money, they paid their workers. Well, from what I understand, that team got paid fairly. They didn't rush them. They took their time, and look what they produced. Something that worked out of the box without DLC or cut content, right? Which we'll get to those points later. But I want to pose something that is a fixed conversation, but this is the problem. As soon as you put that AAA next to your game, you automatically assume a certain price tag. I'm going to take the Calypso Protocol. The Calypso Protocol was set as an AAA game, AAA. $70. Matt, you've played it. Your wife has played it. I've played it. Do you think that game is worth $70?
That game is not a AAA game. It is the triple B game, which is an insult. Unlike our podcast, the Triple B podcast, Buzz Bustin' Balls. That is good stuff. No, it's not. It was not worth $70. I actually did, like, retrospectively enjoy the game. It was not $70 worth, and thankfully I got it discounted. And I ended up giving my friend who likes horror games. I'm still waiting for him to play it so he can tell me about it. But no way.
Yep. So anyway, it just, you automatically assume, okay, well, it's AAA, so it's got to be $70. No. Can a AAA game be 50, 60, 70? I'm going to pose yes. Like, I look at like a Mario Odyssey, as much as I love that game. $60, maybe a little high, but $60 is okay. Tears of the Kingdom is worth, to me, I think, is worth more than in a Mario Odyssey. With the stuff that you get, how dense it is, all the extra stuff, no DLC so far. I think that's worth $70. Then you look at like Splatoon 3. Maybe that's a $50 game. Maybe it's $60. They do offer a lot of free updates that they're just adding stuff in constantly and doing all these other things, right? But the conversation is never there. It's just, you are AAA, you're $70 now. You're the top amount. And I think that kills things. You can be a AAA game without being the top, price.
Maybe this is another discussion for another time, but one thing that keeps coming to mind is we keep throwing out the term AAA game. Like, what really defines a AAA game? Like, studios, they can just toss in, like, we're working on the next AAA game. And it's just, like, do you decide what's a AAA game? Or does you can sink a lot of money into it, I guess, but you're producing garbage. And you say, this is a AAA game, so we're going to charge $70 for it. And, like, I'm pretty sure Konami calls everything they make a AAA game, and I don't think they're even capable of making a AAA quality game anymore. So I think it's one of those interesting things that I think, I'll never be happy about it, but I think a AAA, tons of money got put into it, price tag is acceptable, but it's kind of a deal thing. Like, in exchange, though, we're coming out with a quality game. This is a game that you can count on being a good game, and I don't think that can be said for a lot of AAA games anymore. I feel like it's a very cheap title that gets thrown around, and almost to the point it doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm sure there's an official definition of what AAA means, but to this point, as far as I'm concerned, AAA game is just a game that comes from a really big studio, has no reflection on the quality of it and the effort into it and how good the end product is. It's like, oh, it comes from a big game studio, so obviously they paid a lot of money for it and not reflective of the quality at all. So I think there needs to be a separation from, this is AAA, so it's okay to charge $70. Again, I know that contradicts what I said earlier, but we're not living in that world where AAA guarantees quality. So if it's not the case, then we need to go and separate being okay with paying $70 off the bat for a quote-unquote AAA game if we don't have confidence that it's going to have that quality matching it. So
we need an agency that will determine if a game is AAA or not, and I nominate the Triple B podcast to take on this task. So video game people, pay us money, and we will decide if you're a AAA or not. Triple B decides AAA.
You want the AAA? Then come to the Triple B.
Yeah, we're going to get rid of those kind of monikers. We're going to get rid of AAA. If you are the highest quality, you're Triple B.
Ooh, I like it.
The only one that earns AAA is the American Automobile Association.
Yeah, what are they going to sue? When are they going to take back their acronym? Like WWF took it from wrestling. The Pandas took it from wrestling. When is AAA? When is the ignored, discarded automotive industry going to finally step up and take their claim? What is rightfully theirs?
Rightfully theirs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Speaking of taking away, the next point that I want to bring up, why I think there's going to be, so the price is going up. That's the big one. Okay, that's the one that everybody immediately sees. Even if you're not into gaming, you're not into that stuff. Like the majority of people, they're not on Twitter, typing things. I'm so angry about this. They see the price and they go, oof, okay, I got it. But speaking of taking away, these companies it's becoming more and more common with all of them. I don't care who you are, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, whatever fanboy you're of, PC, any of these companies, okay? They're all starting to take things out and then resell it to you as microtransactions or DLC to say, well, we're supporting this game. There's more. So and they think this is how we'll get that, like, hey, we'll charge $60, but we're going to cut this out. And then, hey, for $10, you can get all this extra content. And now we're back to the $70 game. Or possibly, hey, for $20, you can get this. And it's what should have been there. And an immediate example of this that I can think of that it will always piss me off because is Mario Strikers Battle League. I was so excited for that, and they screwed that up so badly that I was like, what is your problem? Not from Unit. I didn't expect that from you, Nintendo. You do a lot wrong, not that, and you did it. You did it wrong. But they all do it. Everybody does it. All these companies do it. There are very few that don't. They're usually smaller that don't do that. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I saw a poll the other day. It wasn't an official poll. It was on GameFAQs, Game FAQs. And the poll was more or less, what do you think is the worst? And I just thought this timing was great. What is one of the worst practices in modern gaming? And overwhelmingly, the number one option was microtransactions, followed by content that you knew was developed with the game, purposely set aside to be DLC. Now, my initial thought is that sucks. And I'm going to say something that's a little bit weird. I have actually grown okay with microtransactions in certain settings. Fortnite, completely free to play game. Completely free to play game. Everything you buy in Fortnite is strictly cosmetic, does not impact the game. I have no issues with that, man. If you want to spend money to be Leon Kennedy, to be Batman with a gun, I run around as freaking Vegeta with a machine gun. That's hilarious to me. Yeah, but I didn't pay money. It was gifted to me. Thanks, Chrome. And Wing. They all give me stuff. I don't have any problems with that. What I have problems with is I don't like when content is specifically made and then pulled back to be sold later if it is a massively impactful piece of DLC. Some DLC is just dumb and not worth it. For example, the Borderlands Wonderlands, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands DLC. Scott's the only one that's played it, but I looked into it. That is one of the worst DLCs I've ever seen. And then Scott, you might be able to talk on this later, but you mentioned how there's a particular run in Wonderlands where there's just so many pirates. Pirates everywhere. Pirates for days. Why are there so much pirates? Because they plan to make that DLC. And they're like, our game's not big enough. Let's put it on here. So they were going to hold that back, and then they put it in the game. And now it's just, oops, all pirates. I don't mind microtransactions if it's purely cosmetic. I really don't. I hate when content is purposely withheld from a game, and I extra hate when that content actually impacts the game in a major way, like narrative and story. Like, hey, I beat the game, I should be done. Oh, wait, there's more, but I have to pay for it. That pisses me off. That's what I hate. I don't mind you adding stuff to it to amplify the experience, give me cosmetics, whatever. But if you give me something heavy and narrative that I missed out on because I'm not paying extra money, I hate it. Pisses me off. That is dumb. That's my thought.
So I'm going to be a little bit of the Hill color commentator, a little reference for wrestling for you. Got to throw one in every episode. So one thing that Mike said saying recently, it's like been a recent issue, locking content behind paywalls when it's released. I wouldn't say that's recent. That's actually probably been like a almost 10-year issue. So it's one of those things that it's kind of been long running. Not saying it was good 10 years ago, but definitely I don't think that's necessarily a new development in the world of gaming. And then to Matt's point, I also do agree that microtransactions are acceptable at times. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more later about microtransactions. This is more about like locking content behind paywalls on day one. And I kind of said in the previous episode that my biggest thing is transparency. I mean, we're all adults, maybe. I know based off a lot of the kids I play online. There is a lot of 9-year-olds out there apparently, but you should all be adults. And I think that we're mature enough and intelligent enough to be given the truth. And I forget what game it was. I really wish I remember which game, but there was a game that basically announced like, oh, on day one, we're going to have all these different DLCs. And people started like losing their shit saying like, hey, this should all have been part of the game. We hate day one DLC stuff. And they actually came out and said like, okay, we need to clarify. The game went gold 4 months ago, this date. After that point, we had this many of the team, continuing to work on like bugs, day one patch stuff. But instead of laying off the rest of the team, because we didn't really have a project lined up, we had them continue to make content for the game. So the game already went gold at this point, but they were working on, we decided to let them keep on working on stuff. The stuff that's available day one, that's the content they've been working on for the last 4 months. And obviously, they have to get paid somehow. The budget was already spent up, getting the game gold. And so the additional stuff they're working on, charging it for DLC, that's to go and basically pay what it costs them. Plus we need a little bit of profit. But that's what it was. This is stuff that's been worked on since going gold. And I was 100% fine with that. And again, I forget what game it was, but day one, it was a game I was psyched for. And I bought every single bit of that day one DLC, which I think added up to $30. But, still kind of pricey, but at least I got it. Like maybe I wasn't happy about it. It would have been awesome if it was free. But at least explained it to me and it made sense. It wasn't an excuse. It wasn't insulting my intelligence. So I think what it comes down to is just transparency and not just, I'm going to throw a game out here. And I know it's a game that Mike was ranting about a lot too. And I, quite frankly, am very upset about it as well. A game called AEW Fight Forever. And I feel bad bashing the game because part of me wants it to be successful.
Don't feel bad. Just do it.
I mean, as bad as it is, whatever the WWE franchise, video game franchise is called, is more like morally despicable and horrible gaming practices. But I'm still going to call out AEW Fight Forever, that they're going to have a significant portion of their wrestler roster, behind a paywall day one. Day one, like, oh, you can go and buy the yada yada pack and the yada yada pack, and it gets you these 2 wrestlers, and this one gets you another 2 wrestlers. Pre-order and you get another 2 wrestlers. Oh, buy the Ultimate Deluxe Edition, it's another $20, and you can get these wrestlers. It's like, don't go and try to go spin it as some type of value of me being able to go and get all these extra wrestlers. It's like, that's not something that's very hard to go and add after the fact. Like, that's something that was blatantly kind of being withheld just to go try to get a little bit extra money. If you just came out front and said, hey, this is an $80 game. We're sorry. We went way over budget or this, and this reason. $80 is what we have to go charge to recoup. Still, I probably still would not buy your game, but at least it's like, well, at least they're honest. But to try to pull a little sneaky, like, oh, you can buy the game for $60 or you can get all this extra stuff for another $20. So basically, I'm paying $80 then. You can go and try to spin it as like $60 and then an extra $20 to get bonus stuff, but that's not bonus stuff. That's just me getting the full roster that has been ready. So again, it kind of comes down to respect for the player, transparency in my eyes when it comes to that.
And I think something that we've all, then I'll just kind of cap it here to move on. It's not that we're against DLC or microtransactions necessarily. So that's going to be, we all instantly, like, our go-to reaction for that is get off my lawn. Okay. That doesn't mean that it's always get off my lawn. It could be get off my lawn. You can play in the front yard. You're okay. Don't go over there. Like, it's not that we're against it if it's done correctly. And I think the key is, did you take a piece of the pie out just to put it back in? Or did you give us whipped cream on top of the full piece of the full pie? What did you do? Right? So like your example, Scott, they added the stuff that so if you played the game, you didn't get the DLC and you go, that felt like a complete game. And then you play the DLC, well then, okay, day one DLC is okay. I was furious with Splatoon 3 when they were like, oh, it's coming out. And by the way, there's going to be DLC. And I'm like, the game isn't even out yet. I was angry. Then after playing it and seeing, oh, this is they didn't take anything out. It is a full, complete game that they keep adding more stuff into. unlike games like Halo Infinite, which is another conversation for another day. But they're adding a chunk that if you skip it, doesn't affect you at all. At all. Maybe miss something cool. And to harp on AEW, because damn it, I am so angry with that. I am so that was a day one buy. That game looks like booty. Okay. Graphics, I mean, they mean something to me, but they're not like, oh, I gotta have the best graphics. That game looks like booty. It looks like booty. It's from a company that is not proven with games, and the developers are, I don't know if I really like the developers anyway before they joined up with AEW. But I went, you know what? I love AEW. I want an arcade style wrestling game. I'm in. I will pay the $60 for it. Even if they had bumped it up to 70, I'd be like, I don't like this, but I will do it for you because I want to do that. And specifically, this hat that I'm wearing, this is why I wore this hat tonight. I love this tag team. They're top guys. They're top guys.
Top guys.
And they are behind the freaking paywall at launch. Over on the top, tons of people like them. Some of your biggest stars, not alternate skins. The base wrestlers are behind a paywall, and it infuriates me. And I went, I'm not getting this now. I'm not. I'm out.
Yeah.
Because
Hell has to freeze.
They took out, not added.
Hell has to freeze over when, Hell freezes over when I defend WWE. But at least in the WWE games, they also have DLC wrestlers. And maybe some of them are day one, but a lot of their DLC wrestlers are like joke wrestlers or like retired legends. People that I think basically like the standard for those games is it comes out, all of the current active wrestling roster is available on the game. DLC is various wrestlers that have retired, have sadly passed away, or kind of joke characters, and that's fine.
Or if they add to the roster over the year or whatever, then it's like, I get that. That's the right way of doing it.
Playing Doink the Clown, paying $5 for that? Okay, I guess that's funny. And maybe some other person's like, yeah, I'm not going to go and pay $5 for IRS. That's cool. Don't pay it. Like, I'm sure your favorite wrestler, the actual champions currently today, you'll be able to play as. FTR, they are currently the AEW Tag Team Champions. And day one, paying $60 for the base game and not having access to current champions for that company is a very, very, very bad move and a very bad look.
What's funny about that game is, to go back to Scott's transparency point, is they said this is going to be a game as a service. We're not going to make a new one every single year like WWE and all major sport games do. Every new year, there's a new MLB game, a new NBA game, a new Madden game every single year. They said they're not going to do that. We're going to do it as a service, which means, be prepared to pay for DLC to get like new characters and new features. I'm like, I'm on board. That's cool. That makes sense. But they're doing that at launch. And that is stupid.
Yep.
So
they're not proven. They're not, the game developer is not proven with this. AEW Games is not proven with this. They are still relatively new as a company, as a wrestling company. This is a big leap of faith from a lot of fans, in my eyes, in my opinion, looking at this. And you're already screwing over your loyal fan base, like out the gate. Like, wow.
All they had to say, this may not be the truth or not. Hopefully they don't say this if it isn't the truth, but one possible thing that could have been the reason they did this, and all they had to do is explain themselves. The game has been basically finished for a year. I won't get into the reasons why they held it for a year, but it's been done for a year. Like Matt was saying, it's going to be an ongoing supported title. All they said is like, hey, we've been done with this game for a year. So since then, the past year, we've just been working on extra wrestlers. So the wrestlers that you're getting day one for DLC, those are ones we didn't intend on originally shipping with the game when it was ready a year back. These are just what we've worked on since.
That actually might be the truth. That could be the truth.
And that's very likely. Have they said anything about it, though? Again, it comes down to transparency. We're not stupid. We get it. We're not completely illogical of like, what? We don't want paid money. We want all free. Like, we get it. And if we don't like it, then we won't buy it. But to go and just completely poison the well for a franchise that hasn't even started yet, that's just bad. That's just bad business right there.
And that's the stuff that leads, and like you mentioned, Scott, this isn't new. This stuff, I posted on Twitter about, because I got to go to Twitter to go rage, because that's what you do. And somebody responded to me like, it seemed like they were trying to defend this whole thing, and I was like, have we been kidding? They're like, well, WWE does it. And I went, yeah. And I was hoping AEW would not, because of this, and this. We've been conditioned. And I think, again, people are starting to push back finally and go, no, I don't care. And which leads me to my next point about this implosion, right? So we've got high prices, microtransactions, cutting content, while trying to turn around and say like, hey, this is super cool. We're adding content for $20. So much content. It seems like a lot of these big companies, the AAA companies, those gaming companies, they are one fail away from just going under, being bought by somebody else, or stopping doing all this stuff. And then that also leads to things like two other points that I actually have here. They don't take risks. So all games, like a bunch of games like first person shooters, kind of suffered this. They got popular. Well, this is cool. Then everybody had to have first person shooter. A first person shooter will usually sell. That's the safe route. But we don't get these weird games. We don't get the whether, like, you look at, like, I think that's why I love Tears of the Kingdom, is because they tried all of this stuff. Some of it failed for some of it succeeded. But the thing is, it's new, it's fresh, it's something different. Go try playing an open world game after playing Tears of the Kingdom with just Ascend, just that one ability, take nothing else. And it's changed it. They don't take those risks, because as soon as it fails, like, look at what was the Square Enix? Square Enix has been on a tear with being terrible the last like 5 years. Forspoken bombed, and what I played of it, it was not a good game. That was not a AAA price game. That was like a mid tier, right? If I would have had that mindset going in, I would have been, hey, this is kind of enjoyable. No, it's not worth the full price. But that they are already predicting, like, oh, well, we're not expecting Final Fantasy 16 to sell buku bucks right now because of this and this and this. I'm like, then why are you selling it for that much money? If you don't expect it, drop the price so that more people buy it, and people are like, so it leads to them not taking a risk and consolidation, which I don't think is a good thing. Microsoft buying all of these companies. They bought Arcane is with them. How did Redfall go? What was the news stories with Redfall recently? Sony doing the same thing with different companies, basically pulling out of the Japanese market and just buying a whole bunch of other things. I don't like that. I think that's bad. But it's one fail away from being bought up by somebody else, or going under. What do you guys think of that? Do you think there's truth in that? Am I talking out of my butt?
About taking risks, I think we actually have a very saturated market of gaming, but all the risk takers are with the independent studios, which are either being done via like Kickstarter, self-funding, or I think bigger studios have smaller studios that they own that say, hey man, go do your thing and go make us money. And if you make us money, then maybe we can elevate it. So I don't really have anything to add to that one. Like, our main titles generic these days? I mean, yeah, a lot of them are.
I think you could add. Let me put it in context of something that you would find, especially that indie game, right?
Ooh.
What if Hades came out and it was $70? Would you have even tried it?
Honestly, probably not, just based on the way that it looks. And I guess that's a consumer reflection as well.
Because we've been conditioned that it has to be a certain way, which goes back to my first thing of, there are different tiers of AAA, AA, single A, indie, whatever kind of levels you want to say it. But that's
also,
yeah. Go ahead.
I just died a little saying that, like, oh man, I probably wouldn't have gotten Hades initially looking at it, because truth be told, and let's go back to Twitch here. Twitch sells so many video games because people get to preview it. And maybe Twitch, if you want to make money, how about you partner with studios and say, hey, we are saying if you click this link, everyone makes money, whatever. That's the only reason I found out about Hades was my wife was watching a Hades stream. It was a pro wrestler, Leva Bates, was playing Hades, and she goes, "This game is cool," and I'm like, "All right, yeah, looks whatever." And then she bought it, and I watched her play it. I'm like, "Hot dang, this looks amazing!" And then I started playing. I'm like, "Oh yeah, one of the best games ever made." And I think I bought it on the Switch for $30. Definitely worth $30. So like retrospectively, would I have paid 78? No. Knowing what I know now about Hades, would I pay 70 for it? Yeah. Like if Hades 2 says, you know what, Matt, screw you, it's $70, I'll be like, that sucks. Here's my money. But that's a different conversation for a different day. As far as your basically major companies buying everything, we are getting into very close to monopoly gaming market. Thankfully, there is still competition. Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. We still have the big three. And even though mainly Microsoft and especially Sony are kind of hoarding a whole bunch of things, and then they have all these other studios that you think are standalone, but really they're owned by the big guys. I guess that's what monopoly laws are here for. Is it concerning to me? It is less from a gaming standpoint and more from a just again a inflationary standpoint, a capitalistic standpoint. Like it's always a bit scary when one guy owns like everything, and all we can really do is like take them at their word that they're not going to do anything scummy with it.
Yeah, as for me, so kind of going to Mike's topics of like, I first will address consolidation. So first off, I know you mentioned Square Enix and you didn't mention Konami, but Konami is one of those ones that I'm kind of amazed hasn't gone out of business or been bought out yet. Ubisoft is also going through this. I think they are doubling down on Assassin's Creed because they basically said like everything else we've done has been unsuccessful. Our only moneymaker is Assassin's Creed, so let's double down on it. We'll see how long it takes for them to, get that well dry. At the same time, are we really going to feel bad if Square Enix gets bought out by Sony? Are we going to feel bad if Konami goes out of business or gets bought out by Nintendo? I mean, is it great that there's so much consolidation? Is there monopoly concerns? Yes. Do bad decisions need to go have consequences? Yes, that's business. It's survival of the fittest in the corporate level. And definitely Square Enix, would have never ended up in the position that they're in if they were actually making quality games. I would say, though, my big concern with consolidation, though, is not necessarily, like, I wasn't very concerned with Activision Blizzard buying everything. Granted, like, they're kind of a horrible company now, and I'll eventually get to, like, my big gripes with Diablo 4. But if it's a software company and they're consolidating, okay, whatever. Where I get kind of concerned about is when it's a company that also creates hardware, and then they're the ones that are buying up all the software. That's when I start getting kind of concerned. A world where Sony owns everything, well, then everything's going to end up on the PS5. Maybe you'll get something on the PC 2 years after the game gets released, but that's scary for me. Yeah, I mean, as stingy as Sony is, Nintendo's a million times stingier. Like, you'll never see that stuff on anything but a Nintendo console. Maybe you'll get kind of a weird mobile game of some of the franchises. But yeah, at least Microsoft, and I hate to sound like I'm Mr. Defense Microsoft, and maybe they're just saying this to go and get the Activision Blizzard deal through. But they're at least saying that, like, we're going to own everything, but it's not going to be Xbox exclusive. It's going to continue to be on PlayStation 5, or even going to start now releasing it on the Switch. I would say, though, probably the only thing that gives me a little bit of comfort that will avoid this dystopian future of all the hardware companies owning all the game companies is PC. And I feel like PC will always be the counteractor, preventing that type of future from happening. Granted, Windows is still Microsoft. So in the end, I guess in a way.
That's probably why Microsoft is so willing to play ball, because they go, we're getting our money anyway. So do you guys see, am I being paranoid by saying that I foresee some kind of, something's got to change, or there's going to be some kind of collapse within the gaming world, universe, whatever?
My short answer to this is I'm not worried. And the reason I'm not worried is because the consumer has a lot of power. And we live in a much more interconnected world where if the consumer sees something that they don't like, they're going to talk about it, even if it's valid or not. So the short answer for that, for the sake of time, for me personally, no. And I think I'll talk more about that on this Friday's podcast.
Yeah. I'll do a teaser as well. I'll keep it short and sweet. I don't think there'll be there may be a gaming recession. There may be some big studios that close down, but I think the gaming market will continue to grow and chug along. I think the gaming market will continue, but I don't think a lot of today's gamers will continue with it. I think a lot of players today are going to be left behind, and yeah, we'll talk about that more on our next episode.
Interesting. All right. Well, thanks for staying. We went a little bit longer. We had discussed if this would actually take up enough time. It definitely took up enough time. Thanks for staying. What are your thoughts? Are we going into a gaming recession? Is it going to collapse on itself? Are certain gamers going to be left behind? Or are we perfectly fine? And we're just a bunch of idiots, except for Matt, who has the fixes coming up next time, right?
Exactly.
So, let us know. Tell us in the comments, what do you think about this stuff? If you're listening in on this, let us know. You can catch me on Twitter, catch us on our Twitch channels while we're streaming. I love to talk about this stuff even when I'm streaming. So catch us. To kind of wrap it up here. So thanks for listening. As always, you the best. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. Share with your friends, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until next time, bye.